The universe, in my limited experience, was composed of three fundamental states of being: before Julian, during Julian, and the terrifying, hypothetical after Julian. For the last 4 years, I had existed solely in the during. It was a state of low-grade, constant yearning, a hum of awareness that vibrated just beneath my skin whenever he was in the same building. Living with him was both a profound blessing and a special kind of torture I had willingly signed up for. It was the difference between starving and being allowed to smell a feast you could never eat. He was my roommate, my friend, the man whose laughter from the living room could make my chest ache with a feeling too vast and complicated to name. I had built my life into a careful, quiet routine around him, a series of small rituals designed to maximize proximity while minimizing exposure. I learned the rhythm of his footsteps, the specific creak of the floorboard outside his bedroom, the soft whoosh of his closet door. I could tell his mood by the way he set his coffee mug down on the counter. A sharp clack meant a stressful day at the firm. A soft scrape meant he was relaxed, pensive. I was a scholar of Julian, and my field of study was unrequited love. My life had become a collection of these quiet observations. I watched him from the periphery, a ghost in my own home. I existed in the spaces he'd just left, breathing in the lingering scent of his soap in the bathroom, feeling the residual warmth on the couch cushion where he'd been sitting. It was pathetic, I knew. A half-life lived in the shadow of someone else's vibrant existence. But it was all I had, and I clung to it. Today's ritual was laundry. Sunday afternoon laundry was a sacred thing. Julian was usually out, playing basketball with friends, or holed up at the office catching up on work. It was my time. A few hours of guaranteed solitude where the only sounds were the slosh of the washing machine and the hum of the dryer, sounds that had become the soundtrack to my quietest, most private thoughts. I could be myself, fully and completely, without the constant, exhausting effort of pretending I wasn't hopelessly in love with the man who paid half the rent. The first load was done, a warm, fragrant cloud of cotton and dryer sheets. I pulled the tangled mass of clothes into the wicker basket, the heat seeping into my arms. There was an intimacy to it, folding his clothes alongside mine. His gray Henley, soft from 1,000 washes, smelling of the cedar and spice detergent he preferred. My plain white t-shirts. His running socks, my boxer briefs. The fabrics of our separate lives, tangled together in the heat, then carefully, respectfully, separated and folded into neat, sterile squares. It was a metaphor for our entire relationship. I was halfway through a particularly stubborn fitted sheet, engaged in the ancient, frustrating battle of corner to corner, when the scent of the room changed. It was no longer just the clean, sterile smell of laundry. A new note appeared, something warmer, richer, sandalwood and something citrusy, the cologne Julian wore when he was going somewhere important. My hands stilled on the sheet. My entire body went on high alert. He was supposed to be out. I didn't turn around. I kept my back to the door of our small, cramped laundry room, listening. I heard the soft scuff of a shoe against the linoleum, a sound so close it made the hairs on my arms stand up. The low, familiar hum of the dryer suddenly felt like a roar in my ears, drowning out the beat of my own frantic heart. Fighting the good fight, I see his voice was a low rumble, laced with amusement. It came from directly behind me, so close I could feel the vibration of it in the air. I flinched, dropping the sheet into the basket in a messy heap. Julian, I thought you were out. My voice came out strained, a full octave higher than usual. I hated how he could do that to me with just a few words. Plans got canceled, he said. I could hear the smile in his voice. I didn't need to see it. I had it memorized. The way it started at the corners of his mouth and traveled up to his eyes, crinkling the skin there. A genuine, unguarded smile that always made me feel like I'd just run a marathon. I finally forced myself to turn. He was leaning against the doorframe, all casual, relaxed grace. He was dressed up, dark jeans that fit him perfectly and a crisp, button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. The sight of his forearms, with their light dusting of dark hair and the clear, defined lines of muscle, always did something unfortunate to my ability to breathe. He was watching me, that easy smile playing on his lips, his head tilted slightly. His gaze was steady, unreadable, but it felt heavy, like a physical touch. You look nice, I managed, the words feeling clumsy and inadequate in my mouth. My own clothes, an old, paint-stained sweatshirt and faded gray sweatpants suddenly felt unbearably shabby. I felt like a troll discovered in its laundry cave. His smile widened. Thanks. Had a date, a date. The word landed in the pit of my stomach like a stone. Of course. Why else would he look like that? Why else would he smell so good? I tried to arrange my face into something resembling casual interest. Oh yeah? How was it? He pushed off the doorframe and took a step into the tiny room. The space, which was already cramped, suddenly felt non-existent. He was only a few feet away, close enough that I could see the faint stubble on his jaw, the different flecks of brown and gold in his eyes. He shrugged, a simple, elegant movement of his broad shoulders. Didn't happen. She canceled last minute. Something about a sick cat. Oh, sorry to hear that. The relief that flooded me was so intense it was nauseating. I was a terrible person. A truly awful, selfish person who felt joy at the news of a sick, possibly fictional, cat. Don't be. I wasn't that into it anyway. He gestured with his chin toward the basket. Need a hand? I'm an expert folder. My mom used to say I had a gift for hospital corners. My brain screamed. No, absolutely not. Get out of this tiny room before I forget how to function. But my mouth said, sure. If you want. He took another step, and now he was standing beside me, our shoulders nearly brushing. The warmth radiating from his body was a tangible thing, a force field that seemed to press against my side. He reached into the basket, his hand brushing against mine as he pulled out one of his own t-shirts. The contact was brief, accidental, but it sent a jolt up my arm that made my fingers tingle. I immediately turned my attention back to the laundry, my movements jerky and uncoordinated. I grabbed one of my own shirts, fumbling with it. My mind was a static-filled television screen, all snow and noise. He's just being nice. He's your friend. He's bored because his date canceled. This means nothing. Stop it. Just stop. We folded in silence for a few moments. It wasn't the comfortable silence we sometimes shared watching a movie. This was a silence thick with things I couldn't say, charged with the sudden, overwhelming fact of his physical presence. The hum of the dryer seemed to get louder, a rhythmic, pulsing sound that matched the frantic beat in my chest. I focused on the task, on the crisp lines and neat folds, pouring all my nervous energy into making each square of fabric perfect. I watched him out of the corner of my eye. His hands were large and capable, moving with an easy, practiced efficiency. He folded a towel with a few quick, deft movements, his brow furrowed in concentration. There was no awkwardness in him, no tension. He was completely at ease, as if folding laundry in a cramped, overheated room with his neurotic roommate was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe for him, it was. I was the one making it weird. I was always the one making it weird. You're doing that thing again, he said, his voice soft, cutting through the dryer's hum. I froze, a half-folded sock in my hands. What thing? The thing where you look like you're trying to solve a complex physics equation, but you're just folding a sock. He wasn't looking at me, but I could feel his gaze. He placed a neatly folded shirt on the growing pile on top of the dryer. You get this little line right here. He reached out, his index finger tracing a path on his own forehead, between his eyebrows. My own forehead tingled in sympathy. He noticed that? He paid enough attention to me to know the specific way my face looked when I was concentrating. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. It implied a level of observation I hadn't thought he was capable of, or at least, that I had never been the subject of. I had always been the watcher, not the watched. I'm just focused, I said, the excuse sounding weak even to my own ears. Focused on what, Leo? He said my name, and it was different. It wasn't the casual, offhand Leo he used when he asked if I'd paid the electric bill. It was quiet, deliberate. He had stopped folding and had turned to face me fully. The space between us was now only a foot of superheated, electrically charged air. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. I looked down at the sock in my hands, a ridiculous striped thing that suddenly seemed like the most fascinating object in the world. The sock. Just making sure the stripes line up, a low chuckle escaped him. It was a warm, pleasant sound that vibrated through the floor. The stripes. Right. Very important, the alignment of the sock stripes. He was teasing me, but it didn't feel mean. It felt intimate. He was seeing through my flimsy defenses, and he wasn't running away. He was leaning in. I could smell the sandalwood of his cologne, the clean scent of the laundry, and something else underneath it all, the warm, uniquely Julian scent of his skin. It was overwhelming. I risked a glance up at him. His expression had changed. The easy amusement was still there in his eyes, but there was something else, too. Something more serious, more intense. His gaze dropped from my eyes to my mouth and then back up again. The air crackled. The hum of the dryer faded into the background. All I could hear was the rush of my own blood in my ears. This is a moment. My brain, in a rare instance of clarity, supplied the thought. This is one of those moments that changes things. What you do right now matters. And what did I do? I panicked. A laugh bubbled up out of my chest, a startled, nervous bark of a sound. It was completely involuntary, a product of a system overload. It was the sound of 4 years of repressed feelings and carefully constructed walls, all crashing down at once. It was a laugh of pure, unadulterated terror and helpless, hopeless want. It was loud and a little bit hysterical in the small room. I laughed because the absurdity of it all was just too much. Here was the man I had secretly loved for years, standing so close I could count his eyelashes, looking at me like I was something he wanted to eat, and all I could think about was sock stripes. It was pathetic. It was ridiculous. It was my life. So I laughed. I covered my mouth with my hand, my shoulders shaking, trying to stifle the sound, but it kept spilling out. Julian didn't laugh with me. He just watched, his expression unreadable. The intensity in his eyes didn't waver. If anything, it deepened. As my laughter started to subside, replaced by a series of mortified hiccups, he moved. It happened fast. One moment he was standing a foot away. The next he had closed the distance entirely. His hands came up to grip the dryer on either side of my head, caging me in. The metal was warm against the back of my skull. My breath hitched. My laughter died in my throat, trapped behind a sudden inability to inhale. He was so close. His body was a wall of heat in front of me, his chest pressing lightly against mine. I was pinned, trapped between the warm, vibrating machine and the solid, unyielding reality of him. I tilted my head back, my eyes wide, staring up at him. His face was inches from mine. The flecks of gold in his eyes were like tiny, burning embers. "What's so funny, Leo?" he murmured, his voice a low, husky whisper that seemed to bypass my ears and sink directly into my bones. I couldn't answer. I couldn't think. My entire world had narrowed to the space between us, to the scent of his skin, to the feel of his body heat seeping through my sweatshirt. This is happening. This is actually happening. My mind keeps repeating the phrase, a mantra of disbelief. I feel the low, steady vibration of the dryer through my entire back, a rhythmic thrum that seems to be counting down to something. His gaze drops to my mouth again. My lips part on a silent, useless gasp. I can see the decision in his eyes a split second before it happens. It's a flicker of something dark and determined, a shuddering of thought and a commitment to action. He is going to kiss me. The realization doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like a physical impact, a punch to the gut that steals what little breath I had left. And then he does. He leans in, closing the final, impossible distance between us. His lips meet mine, and the last, choked-off remnant of my laugh is swallowed by his kiss. It's not a soft, tentative kiss. It's firm and sure, a statement of intent. It's a kiss that says, I am done waiting. I am done pretending. His lips are warm and surprisingly soft. For a terrifying second, I'm frozen, a statue made of shock and laundry. My hands are still clenched at my sides, one of them still holding that stupid, striped sock. Kiss him back, you idiot, my brain screams, finally rebooting. And I do. I let the sock fall to the floor. My hands, clumsy and trembling, come up to rest on his chest. I can feel the solid muscle beneath his shirt, the steady, heavy beat of his heart against my palm. It's beating just as fast as mine. That single realization, that he is not as calm as he appears, is what undoes me. I melt against him. I press into the kiss, a silent, desperate answer to a question I never dreamed he would ask. A sound escapes my throat, a low noise of surrender and relief that is 4 years in the making. His mouth softens against mine, the pressure easing from demanding to searching. One of his hands leaves the dryer and comes up to cup the back of my neck, his fingers tangling in my hair, holding me steady, holding me there. It's everything. It's the sandalwood and the laundry detergent and the heat and the low thrum of the dryer against my spine. It's the slight scrape of his stubble against my chin and the shocking, wonderful softness of his mouth. It's a kiss that tastes of certainty and surprise, of long overdue confessions whispered without a single word. It's messy and desperate and perfect. He deepens the kiss, his tongue tracing the seam of my lips, a gentle, patient request. I grant it without hesitation, opening for him, and the world tilts on its axis. This is no longer just a kiss, it's a conversation. It's him saying all the things he never said, and me answering with all the things I was too afraid to feel. It's a frantic, breathless exchange of years of stolen glances across the living room, of unspoken thoughts in quiet hallways, of 1,000 tiny moments of tension that had finally snapped. He angles his head, and his other hand slides from the dryer to my waist, pulling me even closer until there is no space left between us at all. I am flush against him, my body molded to his, and I feel a sense of rightness, of homecoming, that is so profound it brings tears to my eyes. This is where I was always meant to be. The dryer clicks off. The sudden silence is deafening. The rhythmic vibration against my back ceases, and the world rushes back in. The kiss slows, softens, and then, reluctantly, ends. Julian pulls back, but only an inch. His hand is still tangled in my hair, his other still firm at my waist. His forehead comes to rest against mine. We just breathe. His breath is warm against my lips. Mine is shaky and uneven. I keep my eyes closed, afraid that if I open them, he'll be gone. That this was all some hyper-realistic, fabric softener-scented dream. Leo, he whispers. My name is a prayer. A question. I finally force my eyes open. He's right there, his own eyes dark and searching, his expression stripped of all its earlier teasing. He looks vulnerable. He looks as scared and hopeful as I feel. The silence stretches. It's a terrifying, fragile thing. My mind is racing, filled with a million questions and a million fears. What now? Was this a mistake? A joke? A momentary lapse in judgment fueled by a canceled date? The old, familiar anxiety begins to creep back in, cold and insidious. I can feel myself starting to pull away, to retreat back into the safety of my shell. He must feel it, because his grip tightens slightly at my waist. Don't, he says, his voice quiet but firm. Don't you dare run away inside your head. Stay here. With me, his perception is, as always, unnerving. He sees me. He has always seen me. I just never believed it. Why? The word escapes me, a raw, wounded sound. It's the only question that matters. A small, sad smile touches his lips. Why? He repeats, as if testing the word. Because I'm an idiot. Because it's taken me 4 years to do what I've wanted to do since the day you moved in and spent 3 hours alphabetizing our spice rack. My breath catches. What? I saw you, he says, his thumb stroking a gentle pattern on the back of my neck. You were so serious, so focused. You had that little line between your eyebrows. He touches the spot on my forehead, his fingertip gentle against my skin. And I thought, that's it. I'm done for. I stare at him, my mind struggling to process his words. For years. He's been feeling this for 4 years. While I was pining in silence, cataloging his habits from afar, he was what? Doing the same thing? It seems impossible. He was always so confident, so at ease, surrounded by friends and dates. He was Julian. And I was just Leo. But, you dated? I say, the words sounding stupid as soon as they're out. You were always going out. And did you ever see me bring anyone home? He asks quietly. Did you ever see me with the same person for more than a few weeks? I was trying, Leo. I was trying so hard not to want the one person I absolutely couldn't have. Why couldn't you have me? I whisper, my heart aching with the weight of all those wasted years. Because you're my roommate, my friend, and because you built walls around yourself so high I was afraid if I tried to climb them, you'd just disappear entirely. He confesses, his voice thick with emotion. Every time I got close, you'd flinch. You'd retreat. So I waited. I hoped maybe one day you'd let me in. It's too much. The revelation is a physical blow. All this time, I had interpreted his friendliness as just that, friendliness. I had seen his life as separate, parallel to mine, but never intersecting in the way I craved. I had been so convinced of my own invisibility, of the one-sidedness of my affection, that I had completely misread everything. My careful distance, my self-preservation, he had seen it as rejection. I thought. I start, my voice cracking. I thought you didn't. I never imagined you could. I can't finish the sentence. I know, he says softly. He leans in and presses a soft, chaste kiss to my lips. It's a kiss of reassurance, a stark contrast to the desperate, hungry one that came before it. That's on me. I should have just said something. I was a coward, no. I say, finding my voice. I was terrified. What were you afraid of? He asks, his gaze steady and serious. Losing you. I admit, the confession hanging in the air between us. If I was wrong, if I told you how I felt, and you didn't feel the same, I would have lost my roommate. I would have lost my friend. I would have lost this. I gesture vaguely at the space between us, at the apartment, at the life we shared. And I couldn't bear that. It was better to have a piece of you than nothing at all. A look of profound sadness crosses his face. Leo, he breathes, pulling me into a hug, a real hug this time. He wraps his arms around me, holding me tight against his chest. I bury my face in the crook of his neck, inhaling the scent of him, feeling the solid, real warmth of his body. My arms come up to wrap around his back, my hands clutching the fabric of his shirt as if I'm afraid he'll vanish. We stand there for a long time, locked together in the silent, still laundry room. The piles of folded clothes sit forgotten on top of the dryer. The striped sock lies abandoned on the floor. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is the feeling of his arms around me, the steady beat of his heart against my ear, and the quiet, earth-shattering truth settling between us. He wasn't a feast I could only smell. He was here. He was real. And he was mine. He pulls back eventually, his hands moving to frame my face. He looks at me, really looks at me, and for the first time, I don't flinch away from the intensity of his gaze. I meet it head on. I see the years of unspoken affection reflected there, the frustration, the hope. I see myself, reflected in his pupils. No more pieces, he says, his voice firm. You get all of it. If you want it, it's a question. The most important question I've ever been asked. A real, genuine smile spreads across my face. It feels foreign, like using a muscle I haven't worked in years. But it feels good. It feels right. I want it. I say, and the words are the easiest, most honest words I've ever spoken. I want all of it. His answering smile is blinding. It's the smile I have memorized, the one that reaches his eyes. But this time it's just for me. He leans in and kisses me again, slow and deep and full of promise. It's a kiss that doesn't end things, but begins them. When we finally break apart, the world feels new. The laundry room is no longer a cave for a lonely troll. It's the place my life started. The scent of clean laundry is no longer just a smell. It's the scent of him, of this moment, of a future I never let myself dream of. He glances down at the basket of unfolded clothes, then back at me, a mischievous glint returning to his eyes. So, he says, his voice a low drawl. About these hospital corners, I laugh. A real laugh this time, free and loud and full of a joy so potent it feels like it could light up the entire city. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. He grins, and instead of picking up a towel, he takes my hand, his fingers lacing through mine. The fit is perfect. Or, he says, his thumb stroking over my knuckles, we could just leave it for later. Later sounds good. I say, my voice still shaky with happiness. He pulls me gently out of the laundry room, turning off the light and shutting the door on the half-finished chore. He doesn't let go of my hand as we walk into the living room, where the late afternoon sun is streaming through the windows, bathing everything in a warm, golden light. It feels different now. It's not just an apartment we share. It's a home. And for the first time in 4 years, I don't feel like a ghost in it. I feel like I'm finally, truly here. I feel like I'd come home.